What's going down, everybody? It's one half of the Wake Up Crew. Ray G, my boy Jay Rich, is out this morning, so I will be flying solo to talk some NBA prop bets over on PRIZEPICKS for the Sunday, April 24th slate of NBA games. We got Chicago, Milwaukee, Golden State, Denver, Atlanta, Miami, and Phoenix, New Orleans. Golden State, the only team in position to go ahead and bring it home tonight and get done with the series versus Denver and sweep those boys 4-0. So we'll get to those right now.
For all the high-flying action, take a step back and relax. It's time to count that money, the NBA props. No look any further. You know what time it is. Presented by PRIZEPICKS, NBA props. Let's
count that money, man. All right, yesterday we did hit on Joel Embiid, both his par and his fantasy score, taking the under in that department. Bruce Brown did his thing as well, going over his fantasy score, was absolutely balling. We briefly mentioned Nick Claxton. That line got dropped late at 22. He did go over that score, but Al Horford did not play the minutes. Robert Williams coming back and Jason Tatum just being an absolute monster. Al Horford was a miss. Karl Anthony Towns, Jekyll and Hyde with him. You either get good cat or bad cat, and last night we got great cat. Karl Anthony Towns was fantastic. He did go over his par and fantasy score. And then Rudy Gobert decided to score the most points since April the 10th, dropped 17, and did cash his fantasy score as well. And when that happens, all you can do is move on to the next game. Bankroll management, unit allocation size is so important when you do these. I mix and match these, and I never go over 50% of my unit size on any mix and match prop bet that I place on PrizePicks. But let's go ahead and dive in. We're about an hour until tip-off in the Milwaukee-Chicago game, and some of the fantasy score lines are still not up on PrizePicks. I'm just letting you know, this is one where when I'm looking at our model right now, we have Giannis projected for 30.8 points, 12.3 rebounds, and 6 assists, which would give him, along with his blocks, turnovers, and steals, a fantasy score of 59.11. PrizePicks has his line set at 59 on the dot. Giannis smashed this on the April 20th game, 74.1. Didn't play a lot because it was a blowout in their last game. This is one, y'all, where the data is not giving us much of an edge on this one. 0.18% edge. One of the lowest edges on the slate tonight. I like Giannis. I do think he's going to get this done, his over fantasy score, but I would not recommend it to you all. With the edge being where it's at, this is more of a field play. The data still says he will go over, but this is me just telling you. This is one that I like personally. I wouldn't recommend it as one of the core plays. One line that I'm waiting for that I hope we get before the tip-off starts is Bobby Portis. We have him projected right under 28 fantasy score. So if that line changes or pops up while we're on the stream, Bobby Portis is one I'm waiting to see what happens. But Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez is the player with the highest edge on the slate. PrizePicks has his line set at 26 fantasy score, right? Last game, again, nobody played deep into that game because it was a blowout. First game of the series, he hit that at 28, then 36.7. No Chris Middleton. Brook Lopez will be a core play today on this slate versus Chicago in this matchup. Now, let's go to the Chicago side of the ball and talk Alex Caruso, who also has a 9% edge. These are the only two players in our projection model that have 9% edges in their fantasy score. Alex Caruso, his fantasy score is at 20 in this matchup. You'll see 12.9 in the last game. Again, blowout. None of those guys played deep. But in game 2, 37.4. In game 1, right underneath that fantasy score at 19.6. We have him projected right now at 21.8 fantasy score with this line set at 20, which gives him a 9.01% edge. I like Alex Caruso in this matchup. He's scrappy. He's going to do stuff on the defensive end of the ball. Hopefully he gets a couple of steals, doesn't turn the ball over, dishes, gets his couple of points. I'm rolling with Alex Caruso over fantasy score in this matchup versus Milwaukee. We talked about Brook Lopez going over. And then I'm going to the Joker, right? 58 fantasy score. They didn't really boost it that much from the last game, and Joker did his thing. We talked about this one a couple of nights ago, that he was pacing for his over 56, over 57 fantasy score, but was ejected with 7 minutes left. Comes back in the next game versus Golden State and drops 70. Look, it's do or die for Denver in this one, and I am trusting in who will probably be named league MVP, even though I think it should go to Embiid over his fantasy score. So right now, the core three plays that we have are Brook Lopez over 26, Alex Caruso over 20, and Nikola Jokic over 58. Again, I like Giannis. Wouldn't recommend it because the data is saying not going to hit that or going to hit right. If he does hit, it's right underneath that line. But I do like Giannis over fantasy score. And just so you guys know, I just want to show you what we're looking at when we're talking about our projections. So right here, these are the guys that have an edge over 5%. These are the only three that we have run through the model so far. We've got Jokic projected at 61.8 fantasy score. The line is at 58. Caruso, 21.8. Line is set at 20. And then Brook Lopez, 28.41. And the line is set at 26. These are the core three plays for this slate of fantasy score NBA prop bets in this matchup. A couple of lines that I've run that they have not released the fantasy score for. Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is projected in our model at 36.57 fantasy score. So if that line opens up anywhere 32 to 34, I will be taking an over on Jordan Poole. And still waiting to just see Steph Curry. He's only playing about 25 minutes. Don't know how much they need him versus Denver. It is a closeout game for Golden State. We have him projected right underneath 35. This is one I would never feel comfortable taking the under on Steph Curry. So depending on where PrizePicks sets this line at for Steph Curry, I may be inclined, may be encouraged to take an over on Steph Curry. And let's talk Deandre Ayton real quick. So let's go back. Let's go back to PrizePicks and talk a little Deandre Ayton. Maybe they updated while we're doing the stream. Deandre Ayton, fantasy score at 38, right? Absolutely destroyed this last game with 60.9, 26.8 in the matchup before that, and in the first game, 45.8. He's averaging 44.2, and in our projection model, Ayton does have a nice edge. Right there in the middle of the pack at 2.67%. We have him projected at 39 fantasy score, getting 19.4 points, 11.8 boards, 1.8 assists, and then we've got him right at about 3/4 of a steal and a block. So if he can get that, if he can get a block or a steal and hit those other numbers, I think DeAndre Ayton would be well in play for an over fantasy score, but still want to wait and see what Jordan Poole is. Don't want to force it. CJ McCollum has been money in this series, has hit his fantasy score every single game that he's played. But in this matchup, we do not have him projected as a clear over. It's right underneath his fantasy score of 42. Still, maybe late night flex play for CJ McCollum. Just throwing that out there for you guys if you like that pick. He has been money this series when you're talking about fantasy score. But there it is right there. That's what we're going to roll with today. Gave you a couple of other players who have some good edges in this matchup. As always, as soon as PrizePicks drops the line for Jordan Poole and maybe even Bobby Portis, we'll post the picks in the comments, solidify the ones that we're rolling with. Again, Giannis, I think he gets it done, but the data says don't do it, Ray. Don't do it. So if you tail these bets, good luck. Remember, budget and bankroll management are critically important when you're doing these, especially with the mix and match strategy on PrizePicks. If you tail, give them hell, and if we fail, don't bail. These are data-driven analysis picks, and we'll be back to talking about some more NBA prop bets tomorrow. We out. Good luck. Peace.
High-flying action, take a step back and relax. It's time to count that money, the NBA props. No look any further. You know what time it is. Presented by PrizePicks, NBA props. Let's
count that money, man.